So, how...
Action.
Oh, action. So, Farah, to you, what is a tastemaker?
Well, to me, taste is about feeling, it's about sensing, it's about perceiving, also receiving. How then do that person translates it into an object of their creation?
A tastemaker, in my opinion, is someone who goes out of his way to try to make a positive impact on the rest of the world or the people around him.
I think tastemakers are people who do things differently. They don't follow the conventions and they stand by what they believe in, execute them in their own way.
Someone who inspires, definitely. Like yourself, finding ways to inspire ourselves, inspire other people. We're just trying to create something new. And if we're lucky, it becomes a trend.
As someone who's actively working towards leaving his or her mark on the world.
So it's somebody who's free to do what they want to do and has a vision for him or herself. Somebody who just spots their own trend and makes their own trend.
Well, my definition of a tastemaker is somebody who's very acutely aware of where society is and yet trying to push it a little bit further than that. So they know, okay, this is the style or the trends, but then they take it one step beyond.
My role basically is to work together with all the other judges and then based on the criteria, pioneer in lifestyle, carved out their own business, be their own voice, and to find the tastemakers in Malaysia for 2014.
They're unconventional in the sense of they're willing to pursue their dreams and passion, and it's something that's out of the norm. It's not a conventional job, not a 9-to-5 job.
What personality traits should the tastemaker embody? I want to say humility, but certainly if you're going to put yourself out there to be examined and scrutinized by people, courage certainly has to be there.
They've put Malaysia on the map. You know, a lot of them have gotten international acclaim around the world. And, it kind of makes you really proud that, we have so much amazing talent here.
I was expecting interviewing a 600-pounder, but I get this lithe and slim.
It might happen at some point.
Okay, how did the last polka begin for you?
I think it's a happy accident. While I was working in London, I wasn't always meant to be in corporate. I think I knew that it was a transition from the start. I did an arts degree in uni and then kind of almost accidentally ended up at a tobacco company, so that was my only real job. While I was working in London, someone gave me a home unit, an ice cream maker for Christmas, and it turned out to be not the hardest thing in the world. It's like making a cake.
You studied fine art to begin with, right? And then you made a transition to fashion design.
It was really fast. Fashion came really fast because I was still in my fine art sort of phase and I thought I was just going to graduate, work somewhere. Right before I graduated, I rejoined Art Style KLIA with my friend Silas Liu and surprisingly won that one. And then I joined MIFA with Tengku Syami and we won that one.
Wow.
And then I won the best collection for my graduation again. I felt like, okay, this is going pretty well. And I kind of got scouted for London Fashion Week in one of the shows. And they invited me over the show and I did a short stint with Givenchy and Dior.
Wait. You're like just going through Givenchy.
That's how fast fashion is.
And you're blowing me over. I mean, like seriously, who graduates and suddenly just goes straight to like Paris and London Fashion Week?
I know that you've actually got a degree in engineering and then later on switched to design. Can you tell us why you made that switch?
Since I was young, I was very interested in architecture and design. Being brought up in a typical Malaysian family, I think I chose the conventional path as my first degree. I did mechanical engineering and I didn't regret it. I think that gave me a lot of insight into the rules and conventions that governs our daily lives. After I graduated as a mechanical engineer, I worked for Motorola for a couple of years, and we had a lot of free hand to design how mobile phone could be. After about 4 or 5 years, I decided to enroll myself into a master's course in design at the Royal College in London.
So you're in television broadcasting right now.
Yeah.
How did it really come about?
I did visual communications in the UK. And upon graduation, I came back to Malaysia, and at the time there were few channels available. I got myself an interview in a local broadcasting station, and I was overqualified. So they said, okay, it's either sports production or entertainment producer. Which one do you want? And I'm like, ooh, I don't know anybody at the time. Siti Nurhaliza is the only one I knew.
Yeah.
So I said, okay, I play a bit of sports, so I'm gonna do sports production. And I ended up in wrestling in the end. Imagine, a
that
girl.
is so cool, yeah.
Do I look like a wrestling person? Eventually, I went off and I did my own thing and created some formats, TV shows, game shows. I did Millionaire, which was great. And I eventually got called back to my existing company, and they offered me a position which I was already holding, which was a content developer.
Yeah.
And so that's when I started developing concepts for television shows. And so my journey has since then taken me to this position where I'm heading the digital and innovation department. So that means I'm creating content that can spread across any platform now.
I understand that you went to study advertising and then you switched to computer animation. Why that change?
At the very start of choosing art as my career, I based it off on trying to survive. Because everyone around me was always saying like the broke artist, you're not going to really make it if you take art. So I took advertising, went on to the States. I chose it because that was the one field I thought was going to help me survive. And it's still within the artistic field. When I was there in my first year, I met my roommate and he told me like, oh, I'm going to be studying animation. And I asked him, how do you go about doing that? And he just told me, just do what I do, So I basically followed him, and that's where I made the switch from advertising to animation.
So, Farah, how did you get into architecture?
My uncle is an artist, and he ran his studio in my grandmother's house. And I actually discovered that I had the ability to draw by exploring his studio, and he actually also taught me how to paint, how to draw. When I went to school, I naturally gravitated towards the arts and decided to pursue architecture. I didn't want to have a typical 9-to-5 job, but I didn't know that it was actually a 9-to-9, like 12-hour job,
Wow.
It's never really 9 to 5.
I'm
Yeah.
sure.
I was lucky, actually. I didn't have to suffer. I didn't have that pre-teen or like that teen career crisis where what am I gonna do? What am I gonna do? Actually, I didn't have that. I was lucky.
Then after London's Fashion Week, you decided to go to Paris?
At that moment, I sort of met Jake already, my business partner, and I think we've had this plan that we were going for the perceived value. And Paris is that perceived value. It's a little bit sad to say this, but most, not everyone, but most people here, they sort of look towards, brands outside and instead of the local ones. So we were trying to get out there, be that outside person and come back. And then we found a factory in Italy, we found a place to work in France, in Paris, and we've got great support here in KL. The media here is amazing, and so that's how the brand started.
So Jonathan, as a fashion designer, who do you design for? Who's that woman?
Well, I design for every woman, definitely. I do not want to limit myself to one woman, because I believe every woman who shares the same values as our brand, the cores of our brand, deserves to be in a beautiful outfit. I mean, I'm not gonna say no to any woman who just wants to look good.
You started working with some coffee cups. How did that come about?
So I worked on Diablo 2 and Diablo 3. It is one of the best-selling PC games of all time, top 10 best-selling PC games of all time. And I was bored sitting in a coffee shop. I wanted something to draw on. I was observing people. Didn't have paper to write anything on, right? So I grabbed the cup that was closest to me, a plain cup, off the trash can. And then I started drawing on it. So I collected a bunch of them. And one of my coworkers asked me one day, he's like, what are you gonna do with all these cups? And I said that they're kind of nice, maybe I could sell some of it. And he said, no one's gonna buy that crap, And I was like, this is it, I have to prove him wrong. Because I've been posting my works on this site called Craigslist. It was in fact a shock, because I woke up one morning and I had hundreds of emails just asking me how they could buy the cups, They go for, anywhere in between 300 to 1,004 USD.
If you're interested in buying, call 1-800-BUI.
Oh, you should call your number.
I've worked on the plane interior before, and you've personally worked on the exterior of the plane. How did that go?
It wasn't every day that you get an opportunity to work on the side of a plane. Drawing on the cup is one thing, but for a plane, it's a huge canvas. It's probably the largest canvas I've ever worked on. I was very, very critical of every line I did, because you have to take into account that where the wings are at, it's going to block off a lot of image as well. So all these things came into place much later, and then I realized the complexity of it, and that was when I got less excited and more afraid.
What made you want to decide to recreate Malaysian flavors?
Right from the start, the whole idea was that we weren't going to be like any other international brand in KL. And I think it's great that there's this great chocolate and strawberry and vanilla out there. The last polka was always about recreating nostalgia, our childhoods in KL, to relive that, to relive hours at the mama, that cup of Horlicks you would have after school on a rainy day. So, we've always just wanted to bring that back. And I think there's so much to celebrate about our local cuisines and really the regional stuff you can get. And we have so many things in common.
So this is your day job, and you moonlight.
No, don't
as
say
an
moonlight.
artist.
No. I'm very, very straightforward with my current establishment, so they all know that I do this art thing.
Amazing. So how do you balance your time between your job and your art?
It's almost like a dual personality thing, but the studio helps, having the studio and being able to come in after work and on the weekends. And the reason why I don't separate the two is that why don't you be a full-on artist? I find that my work complements my art. So when I'm super busy at work, I tend to not do my paintings. Or when I'm stressed, I go back to paintings. But then I will have a period when I'm just bunging out the artwork. But before that, I'm always thinking about it. That's part of the creative process.
Exactly.
It doesn't have to be pen and paper.
What's your style like?
My style? Well, the thing is you can see the lines are a big thing for me.
The lines are a big thing.
So I tend to want to do it like janting. Do you know the batik style?
Yes.
Textile is something that I like to play homage to. And I get inspired by a lot of tropical fauna and flora, and I love the buildings in KL too, especially around 5 or 6 o'clock in the evening when you travel around the city. It's got this beautiful warm glow to it. I just love it. So, that inspires me.
What would you say is your biggest accomplishment to date?
I would think that the collaboration from Virgin Atlantic was our best experience working with the client. The first project we did with Virgin Atlantic was to redesign the upper class interior of the Airbus 330. Virgin was the first airline to introduce a bar in the sky, and the only one who has maintained that bar in the sky up to today. It was a very exciting project because when you think about a very casual setting, and yet at the same time it's all restricted by all the engineering, the safety, the lightweight factor that we have to impose on our design.
Was there any pushback from the client?
No, they were fantastic client. I think to begin with, Richard Branson was already quite a chill person. So I think that the whole team carried on that culture pretty well, and I think they loved the ideas from the beginning.
And do you actually have any favorites? If I were to ask you to pick some of your favorite projects.
One of them being Hit and Misses, which is like a
beautiful
small
space.
bar that we did for the big group, for Ben. The bar is essentially located in a 50s neighborhood, and what we wanted to do was to preserve the feel. And then the other being Plan B up in Ipoh. That was an old warehouse that was converted into the Plan B restaurant. I think it was a successful conversion in a sense that we managed to preserve the beautiful structure of the warehouse.
Yeah, that is a beautiful space.
Yeah.
I've seen it, the warehouse before Plan B was there.
Yeah, and it's amazing to see like the potential of it.
Would you class your style as unconventional?
I would like to see myself as unconventional, but like I said, it's all very subjective.
I mean, it's a little bit hard to call yourself unconventional. You know what I mean? It's almost like cheating.
Is it too pompous or egoistical to say I'm unconventional?
No.
I don't know.
No.
I use ways that I think it's me. That makes me who I am.
Yes, definitely unconventional as a whole, and that is me, an artist and a person, because my journey has been nothing but that.
To me, what's most important is the process of getting there. I'm always thinking out of the box in how we're going to get from point A to point B, without using the conventional path.
Yes, I think I tend to look at things differently and understand the world around me from a particular set of perspectives. But I think I'm a fairly normal person at the end of the day.
In terms of art, I think that I am pretty different from a lot of people in that I can draw as well as storytell, and that may be more unconventional than the rest of the unconventional.
And so I try to do things my own way, and it's not about conforming at all. There's no set way of doing things, especially in art.
We have this herd mentality where, if today the in color is red and everybody will say red, and tomorrow if it's going to be yellow, everybody will go for yellow. But at the end of the day, we have a yellow with a little tinge of blue, and they will feel that, oh, that's something quite interesting that they've never seen before, and it looks good as well.
At any time were you afraid that the flavors that you were experimenting and creating would be too unconventional for the Malaysian market?
No, I mean, we are a nation of pattaya and durian eaters. What resonated with a lot of people in the first instance was that these were things they could relate to, flavors that weren't completely alien to them.
I don't strive so hard to be like unconventionally different. I want to make pieces that make women comfortable. That's the most important thing.
So if the things that come to you are sort of like different, and then you embrace it, you will find that your response towards it is also unexpected.
Correct.
So you just have to maintain an open attitude and not be afraid.
Last but not least, any words of advice for young aspiring artists?
If you want something, you should go for it. And also, whatever you start, just make sure you end strong as well.
Always stay humble. Humility in this society, in fashion, is really key. People would understand you more. They want to get to know you. We like nice people. We love nice people, and I think that applies in fashion. Of course, once in a while you see different personalities popping up, the pompous ones. In the end, you sort of like gradually gravitate towards the really genuine ones. I think that's just normal human nature.
We have a lot of talents, a lot of potentials. Problem is actually people who are too complacent, too comfortable with where they are now. We need that little bit of pushing to bring them out of the comfort zone.
Perseverance.
Yeah.
There is no shortcuts in this industry. You have to start from the bottom and work your way up slowly.
Just don't wait for that moment to come. Just do it and see what happens. And always be open to the possibilities of working together, and no ego. So basically, just out the door, let's work together, let's see how we can do it. No idea is original, so get with the program.
Be brave, trust your gut always. And I think have a plan, start out with a plan, but be ready to change courses along the way.
Moving on to the 2 books that you wrote, how did that come about?
The books I wrote, it's called When I Was a Kid, 1 and 2. It's about growing up in Malaysia. The theme came about when the cups went viral and someone asked, where in China is Malaysia? And I decided that, hey, this is also a good time. Since I was writing a book about growing up, I can really center around growing up in Malaysia. So that's when I added flavors of Malaysia in the book.
What does being Malaysian mean to you?
Means everything. This is home. This made me who I am. And for the last polka, this is everything we are. These are our inspirations. We couldn't have made up Gula Melaka or Teh Tarik.
Voon and yourself both started your practice in London. What brought you over to Malaysia?
After about 5 or 6 years that we started BWBS in London, we felt that there are actually quite a lot to explore in Asia, not just in terms of the market, but in terms of inspiration as well. Both Voon and myself are originally from Southeast Asia, and we felt that there's always a need to go back to our roots and explore certain source of inspiration that we can draw upon for our future works.
We are one of the very few nations, or we have this understanding that we can get away with certain things because everybody here is willing to help each other out. And I like that. I think that's special about Malaysia.
I'm actually not Malaysian, and then in this process, I find it very exciting to learn that Malaysians are actually very enthusiastic in breaking away from the mold of things to carve out and find their own voice. I'm proud of them by being an inspiring force for the generation to come. And I think just being an Asian, I'm happy that they actually set an example for all of us.
They're taking paths that no other people would dream of taking. Occupation where your Asian parents, they would say, no, you should have a job as a doctor because it's stable. But as artists, you constantly push yourself and you really pursue your dreams. So I really salute these artists and personalities.
All of the people that we've chosen, they are proud of the fact that they're Malaysian. But their taste and their sensibility is really, on the quality of an international scale. Not only putting Malaysia on the map for being Malaysians, but they're bringing awareness to, this amazing culture that we have, this amazing heritage that we have, that they infuse into the work that they do.
I guess my message would be to them, don't despair. And you're doing the right thing, and you're also serving as an example to other Malaysians who want to be like that. You're, in a way, the vanguard of other Malaysians who say, I'd like to try that. And you know what? He did it. He was a fashion designer and he went to Paris. Maybe I can be a fashion designer. And they give confidence to other young people that they can go back to their families and say, Mom, Dad, I just got to follow my dreams. And look at these guys, they did it. Can you support me?
It's the second year that this is being done, and I think it's really amazing that we have in our country alone so many people that are world class. You've got a fashion designer, you've got someone who's remarkable doing landscape work, architecture, someone who's created their own ice cream. I mean, how many countries in the world can say that they've created someone like that? It makes me feel really proud. As a country, we have some pretty amazing people, and I can't wait to see what happens next year.